Welcome to the Straight Red Card. Today we have on the show Mr. Scott Warburton, founder of Soccer to Square, and he's also coached youth soccer for the last 31 years, so he knows a little about the development of youth soccer as it's happened. And beginning in 1978, I believe, as a camp counselor at the Colorado soccer camps in Denver, Colorado. But I think for the most part, we've known you as the Soccer to Square guy. Scott, thanks for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about that program today.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
You know,
I've been a big fan of the Straight Red Card for a long time. I think you guys are doing an incredible job for the soccer community, so thank you. Thanks for your support.
No, we absolutely appreciate that. In the interest of full disclosure, of course, we've had your Soccer to Square up on our program for, since the show started. And it's not because, we're getting paid, but it's because both Brett and I have been harping about, one of two big gaps in American soccer for a long time. And one of those things was a lack of quality, the first touch. And that's really what, in many ways, Soccer to Square is all about, helping kids improve that first touch, something, we've heard from Tony Sanneh, from John O'Brien, and Joe Max Moore on this very show. So, obviously, you've been working at this now for 30 years, Scott, but what did you see out there that, kind of inspired you to design the whole Soccer to Square program, and tell us a little about it as well.
We started at the soccer camps, and it became, like you guys said, very evident that even young players, having a lot more trouble playing the ball through the air. Mostly it's a developmental thing. The game starts off when you're 8 years old or 7. About 99% of it's played on the ground. They just don't play the ball in the air. But after about age 8, that ball started going through the air a little bit. So I started introducing some of my younger players to the game and teaching them how to play it. And they would take it home, and lo and behold, Saturday would pop up, and one or two of the players would head the ball in the net. Yeah. It was amazing. It really was. So that's kind of how it showed up, and I started to introduce the game and refine it a little bit with my more competitive teams. And it's such an economical training game that we started to get results right away. There are a lot of technical supplemental training systems out there. Footability comes to mind. iSoccer comes to mind. And then, of course, Soccer to Square, which I developed. What these do is they focus on the player's ability to master the ball, and I think that's really what this country lacks. Yeah. If we were to come out and become real masters of the soccer ball at young ages, it would really, really help our game as a country over time. So I think any of those supplemental training programs really help. Where Soccer to Square and Footability and those others kind of part ways with each other, Soccer to Square is designed so it can be self-directed. So kids can actually, you just introduce it once to them, they take it home, and they play it with their parents or their friends or their siblings. It becomes their game. And then the game itself becomes the teacher, because if you don't hit the ball correctly, it goes out of bounds. Yeah. And so you don't have to spend a great deal of time coaching these children on their technique. They take it home and they develop their own technique and apply it themselves.
And I think the struggle you find with trying to coach the younger ages is trying to do a drill while making it fun. Basically being able to teach them how to do something correctly, but also keeping their interests involved. One thing we do with our club here in Indy is we play a game called kick basketball, and it's as simple as it sounds. It's basketball, but you're kicking it and you're heading it. You're doing anything to get the ball into the hoop, and it teaches them how to control. Sounds like fun. It's a blast, and the kids have fun, and they learn how to take the ball out of the air. They learn how to do soft touches. They learn how to head it.
Any game, I know that Brett, any game that's fun, they'll just sit there and they'll play with it for hours and hours, and that's exactly what we want, them touching the ball all the time.
And I think one of the great things about Soccer to Square, it's in the environment that we live in now, it's hard for a lot of kids to get up and go 3 or 4 blocks down the street to the nearest soccer field without any parental observation because of the way things are these days. But this is something you can do kind of in the backyard, and you can set up in the driveway. You just need some lines, and that kind of makes it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, No doubt, Derek. We wanted to make it so that they could play it anywhere, parking lot, sidewalks, anywhere that there's firm ground where it's safe and playable. They could just go to their neighbor's house. And like you said, geographically here in the U.S., I mean, we're kind of spread out everywhere. So it makes it difficult. You know, the European, you know, everything's so close together. You can go play 6v6, 8v8, or 11v11 after school every day if you want to. But in rural Colorado, good luck with that. I mean, you're lucky to find another player to play with, you know?
Yeah. But I did note that you've also done some work with our friend Tony Sanneh and the Sanneh Foundation. Yes. How did that partnership come to be, and what's the goal?
Well, Tony's an incredible guy. I mean, we really support what his effort is in these communities, and he's a tireless worker. And so how it came about, I started to do some work with one of the Rapids professional players, Julien Baudet, and you know, just landed home that, you know what, some of these other players that are giving back to the community, I should, you know, contact them and see if they can help us out with Soccer Two Squares that goes across the country. And so I made contact with Tony, and I think this summer we're going to have him feature it as a part of his soccer camp. So we're going to support him that way. So that's kind of how it happened.
You know, one of the things you hear about, and it's a debate about how all these young Brazilian players and elsewhere around the world, many of the kids start out playing. They don't have a whole lot of formal training or dribbling drills or anything like that. Yet in the U.S. we seem to be the opposite. You know, we do the cone things right away. I mean, what's a good age for more of the more formal training? What's a good age for that to start?
Well, you know what? I wish that we would have more of a system like Brazil. You know, I wish all of our kids would go out and play in the fields every day. I really do, with bare feet.
Yeah.
You know, that's really a great way how to learn mastery of the ball, by touching it, you know, under pressure. You know, when you're that age, it's just amazing what they come up with. It's really beautiful to watch. It really is. As far as formal training goes, you know, here in the U.S., you know, it's really a parent-sponsored event to get your kid to go play soccer. So they show up to the soccer field, your 2 or 3 practices a week. That is the amount of time that I have to make an impact with that player. So right. I have to teach them the fundamentals of the game, the technique aspects of learning how to dribble the ball, using all surfaces of the foot, learning how to pass and receive correctly, learning how to shield the ball, things that are components of the game that will help them learn now. What I'd really like is that the player to take Soccer Two Square or some of these supplemental training games home and play it with their parents or their friends around the neighborhood. That is really what's going to make the kid a better player. The way I do it with my teams is the first day of the season, if I have a new team, I introduce the game to them, and I make them take it home, and I make them designate one of their parents, siblings, or friends to play with. Mm-hmm. At least once a week they have to play the game. And so what they'll do is they'll play with their mom or somebody else, and I'll get a call from the mom saying, "Oh, thank you, that was such a fun game. We're going to play it every night." And that's exactly what I want to happen, because now we do the formal training during the week, and I have the kid at home playing with their parent or their friend and learning to master the ball while it's in the air, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's really difficult to coach in formal training for a 9-year-old, but you can't even get the 9-year-old to serve the ball to the other 9-year-old correctly. So it's a challenge. So if you can take that part and make it really economical and get it done at home, that really, really helps the whole situation.
I mean, you've been around, Scott, since the 80s. You know,
right.
Not to make you sound real old, but, you know, you've been around. You've been around coaching for a while and you developing players. You know, it's changed in the coaching methods since the 80s to now. And how much better are we?
It has really gotten so much better, guys. I mean, we go to some of these national courses. I just finished my B license a couple summers ago, and I'm getting ready to audit for my A. But, you know, I had to go through the coaching programs, and what U.S. Soccer offers and the Federation offers is really, really good. And I highly, highly encourage any coaches that may be listening to this. They've been thinking about getting a license or doing some coaching education to get out there and do it, because it really supports the Federation, which supports, in turn, you know, the national teams and their education. And not only that, but it brings home a piece of knowledge that can help your community or your team. So I really, really encourage that. And I also highly encourage the National Youth License that's given by U.S. Youth Soccer. The director there is Sam Snow. And if you can throw that up on the website just so people can see it, the better education we can get for our coaches, the better off our kids are going to be also.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the point of that question in a lot of ways is that there are a lot of people that bitch and complain, excuse my French, about the British influence on American soccer, youth soccer, etc., and that how we've been so wrapped up and there's so many, English and Scottish and a few Irish guys too, but out there developing our youth program at so many different levels. I guess my question is, has that changed in the last 20 years? Or is it more of a rainbow now than it was back in the 80s?
It's really interesting because, we're such a melting pot here, so we get all kinds of different influences, whether it's style of play or formations. It changes a little bit. Barcelona's playing so well now, so everyone and their grandma wants to keep the ball, of course. And from the fundamental standpoint, I think that's the point of the whole game, and it's always been that way. If we have the ball, our opponent cannot score. If we have the ball, we can score. So I think the technical issues in keeping the ball, they have coached that into their players much better than anybody else has at this point. And tactically, they decided that this is how we're going to play, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how it will be effective. And you can't really argue with it, can you?
No, I mean, I guess our point, or my point specifically, was it would be nice if we could do more of that. And I agree with John O'Brien when he came on, and Tony Sanneh when he said the same thing, and the whole vision that Claudio has as far as the sort of singular curriculum, the one playing style. My question is how realistic is that based on the fact that we still have these really big kids who may not, they're going to hopefully get technically better. We want that. You want that. Everybody wants that. But they're never going to be Lionel Messi. And it's one of our strengths is that we're big and we're strong and we're athletic. And, do we abandon that?
I don't think we do. I think that there's room for all kinds of thoughts. I haven't looked entirely at Claudio's program, but he's doing an outstanding job for U.S. Soccer. He's new to it, and he's been through the system. He knows exactly what we need. I think having a minimum curriculum, which is saying that our kids are going to know this as a minimum, is a good thing. At least we know each one of the kids understands, where they're at. I think that's a great thing. However, our style of play, I think it's going to evolve with the sport. There's going to be influences from everywhere. All of a sudden, everyone wants to play 4-3-3 now. That's really a Dutch system. So it changes. It really does, and I think that's what makes the game so dynamic. We're not in Italy in the 80s. Playing with 5 and 6, 7 backs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And eventually, it doesn't work, and something else comes along and works better. And so I think it's just going to evolve. But I think the right people are in the right positions up there, and I think they have the right idea going forward.
I think we've talked about this in length as far as whether or not we should or should not play like Barcelona. With Claudio's plan, I know Claudio is in charge of everything up until about U12, and I don't know if this idea is more or less, this curriculum is more or less for that age bracket or just in a general sense. But I'm coaching a U11 team right now, and I still have kids who switch from playing baseball in the spring to soccer in the fall and then basketball in the winter. It's hard to get a hold of them enough to where we can, strictly say, okay, this is how we're going to play, and you need to be able to do this by yourself and do this and that. And you're really sharing them until they get a little bit older.
Hey, Brett, and you know what? I think that you'll ask Sam Snow and those people at U.S. Soccer, they're going to tell you the same thing, or at U.S. Youth Soccer, and that is that we like to have a well-rounded player individually. What makes a great soccer player is one that is a player that can play American football, one that can play a little baseball, one that can play a little basketball. Those are great athletes that play multiple sports, and you don't want to really, change their interest away from one sport or another at that age, because I have 11s too, and I can totally agree with what you're saying. I'm hoping that those other sports will help our players out going forward. You look at what is a really, really fun game, and you're starting to see players compare, soccer to baseball and things like that. More times than not, I'm finding out that our sport is the winner.